Rock we do.
Hey, welcome back. Hello, and welcome back to the Rock Fantasy Files on the Rock Fantasy YouTube channel. I'm here for another of our interview series today. And today I have the pleasure to sit down with someone from this band that's coming to Middletown on March 29th, the Mccartney Years. They'll be performing locally Saturday, March 29th at the historic Paramount Theater in downtown Middletown, New York, which is right around the corner from my record shop. And welcome. And who do I have the pleasure of speaking with here today?
Hey, Stephen, it's Yuri coming to you from Michigan at the moment.
Cool, cool. So let's hear a little bit about yourself and and the McCartney years, how this got started, and all that good stuff, I guess.
Oh, yeah, well, goes back a long time. I was born and raised in the Netherlands. I've spent a great deal of my life in Europe. And actually, my sort of first connection with the Beatles started when I was about 5, 6, maybe 7 years old. Because unbeknownst to me, my father was a huge Beatles fan, and the Beatles came to the Netherlands in 1964. And there's these images of people jumping into the canals in Amsterdam when they got their tour there.
Mm-hmm.
And while my dad wasn't part of that, because I think his mom, so my grandmother, would not have allowed him to go because she always thought that the long hair looked so greasy, although she did turn around in later years. But yeah, he bought all the Beatles albums, all the first pressings when they came out. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, all the way from Please Please Me to through like A Hard Day's Night and Help and whatnot. And those records were always in our living room. So by the time I sort of reached the age of understanding English, which by the way in the Netherlands is a second language, so we were taught English at a young age in school. I was able to read the lyrics on the flip side of the records because some of the later records actually had the lyrics on. A good example of that would be Sergeant Pepper's.
Yeah.
So and as a child, especially when you think about Sergeant Pepper's, that sort of like intrigued me, all the colors and the lyrics and being able to read and understand that. So, I was really interested, and I showed that interest to my father, and he taped everything onto little cassettes. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, I must have been, I think, 7 years old or so. I get a little boom box for Christmas for my parents. And yeah, I mean, I played the tapes until they disintegrated. So, and in fact, a lot of that knowledge of the music that I gained at that age, I still draw from today when when I play the music. So I know all the drum parts and bass and piano, harmonies and everything because I played the tapes so much. And yeah, that's sort of where my love started with the Beatles. But honestly, it wasn't McCartney that got me into the Beatles because it was Lennon. And not for any other reason that I thought that um, the word rhythm, rhythm guitarist, I thought that sounded really cool, you know. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, I want to do that. So that's how I started playing rhythm and guitar. And then my sister learned how to play piano, and she sort of lost interest. But the piano was always in the room, and whenever my parents were away and I was alone at home in later years, I would just tinker the ivories and sort of play the things that I heard from the records that I
Mm-hmm.
had learned, at like 7, 8 years old. So I must have been probably 9 or 10 years old by then. Um, and yeah, so sort of got into Paul stuff. I really enjoyed listening to great variety of songs that he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
That is still a huge interest, obviously, in the Beatles.
Sure.
And then I got an offer or an opportunity, I would say, to play in the Beatles production in England.
Oh,
So yeah, so that was just about 22 years ago.
okay.
And so I went to England and did an audition. And for me, it was kind of like, I was there because I thought it would be great to meet like-minded people. I didn't really think I would get the part because, you know, I was just really interested in learning,
Hmm.
you know, learning to know other people that play this music. But then they called me that night and said that I was hired and they wanted me to start touring with them less than a month later.
Nice.
So I learned all of McCartney's, bass because at the time bass wasn't really my first instrument.
Mm.
So, I got a bass and just learned all the parts and which, I kind of knew in memory or from memory quite well. And then toured with this band for 4 years.
And what was the
Um,
name of that band?
so it was Mopped Up Beatles, based in England, and I've done also some work for other Beatles tribute bands because at the time I was just one of a few guys that knew all the instruments.
Hmm.
Because a lot of the bands sort of played the early Beatles, just the four
Yep.
guys, and there were only a few bands like the Bootleg Beatles, done some work for them. Cavern Beatles, done some work for them as well. So whenever
Mm.
they had their Paul not being able to do the gig, I would jump in and do the piano and guitar and
Hmm.
bass and all of that. So
Sure.
I kind of knew all the instruments through all the years. But I mean, I've always had a great love for McCartney's music, and at some point during that time. I was kind of looking around to see if there was any bands doing Wings, and nobody
Hmm.
was doing that. So, I was like, well, I guess I'm going to be that guy. So that's how I started the Mccartney Years 17 years ago.
Wow.
And
Okay.
while in the beginning, it was kind of like more general McCartney's work, from the Beatles into Wings. We even sort of dabbled into like early 80s stuff, coming up, McCartney, right?
Mm.
McCartney 2. But over the years, I sort of felt like I wanted to hone in on a specific era, and I've always been a great fan of the 1970s Wings
Yeah.
Over the World tour.
Hmm.
75, 76, even before that, 74. Um, and by the time 1976 came around, and they sort of finished the Wings of the World tours
Hmm.
more or less in America in 76. I mean, they became stadium shows, arena rock,
Oh
that,
yeah.
that what we refer to.
Yep.
So I wanted to build a show around that, and because what I had learned over the years from playing in Beatles tribute bands, and many, even here in North America, I played in some bands, albeit not that much because I was really focused on getting the McCartney years on the
Hmm.
rails, was that I mean, the Beatles stopped touring in 1966, right? So
Yep.
all of these bands have to sort of invent a scenario where the Beatles perform these songs live. Because I
Hmm.
mean, we all know that the Beatles never performed any songs live from like Sergeant Pepper's, for instance, or the White Album before an audience, right?
Yeah, it's amazing actually, isn't it? If you
Yeah,
think
so they
about it,
have
a
to
lot of
invent
people
sort
aren't
of
aware. Yeah, younger kids don't even
yeah,
realize that. And then they go see a tribute band and they see, I've seen a couple Beatles tributes where they really pull that off great. And you'd never think that, hey, these
yeah.
guys never did this stuff in concert before. And it was such, and the music is so huge, of course.
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of like for me, I mean, it was great to do that, but it was always I felt, when playing those songs and doing that, I felt there was just a sense of like a part of me that thought, well, it isn't, 100% pure,
Hmm.
and and so with the McCartney years, I really wanted to do something that was real, true to the original. So on this show, we've like all the songs that we do, and even like all the instruments and all the staging that we tour with
Mm.
is an exact replica of what McCartney toured with in the 1970s, and most
Mm.
notably the Wings Over America tour. So I've got all the staging and all the instruments, like even the microphones, and the
Wow.
microphone stands, the same stands that they toured with at the time, the guitars, the amplifier, same brand, year. Um, I sometimes joke that we're a traveling museum of Paul McCartney's gear, you know.
That's cool.
And but the nice thing about that is so that when people walk into the theater, you know, they're immersed right from the first second. You know, there's
Mhm.
there's that vibe, that feeling is like, yeah, stepping back in time, all the gear is there, and nothing in the show is a coincidence, you know. And it's not like everything in the show has a meaning behind it, and the meaning is pure and true. You know, whatever that's happening in the show, it is because McCartney himself did that at some point
Mm.
during those years. Whether it's, you know, a piece of gear, whether it's a song, whether it's the clothing, you know, whether it's some of the things that we say, even though they can be different from night to night because we sort of, you know, interact with the audience much in the same way that McCartney would have done,
Hmm.
you know, in the 1970s. So it's not like a tape that's playing. It's not like, you know, in the Beatles show where perhaps, you know, these songs were only ever released on albums, right? You're sort of like recreating an album or recreating a song. This show
Mm.
is really about recreating everything around it, not just the music, but also the look, the sound, and some of the, you know, inversions in the songs that happened over those years live on stage. You know, all these like different little characteristics and you know, so that's what we do as well. You know, in our band, I tell my guys is that, you know, if you heard something that they did during that time, whether it's a solo, whether it's a little lick, whether it's something, do it because it's original, it's pure, it was
Hmm.
done, you know. And with an album, you only have one version often enough, you know. But with what we're doing is we're looking obviously at the albums, right? Because at the time they would have rehearsed the songs with the albums in mind, but you know, over the years performing that, they made it their own in a way that really presented the show as a whole live experience in general, which is what McCartney wanted. You know,
Hmm.
he wanted to put on a show that was about the live aspect of it.
Mm.
McCartney made it very clear, you know, that
Yep.
he was a touring artist. He wanted to be on stage. That there's a whole reason why the Beatles went on the roof in '69. You know, it was because he wanted the band to go back on the road, and obviously the Beatles didn't want to do that, you know,
Hmm.
and the Get Back the documentary that came out recently really shows that, you know, that interaction
Yep.
about they're being very reserved about going back on the road. So, you know, and it's good. I think, you know, I think, you know, Let It Be and Abbey Road are some of the greatest albums that came out of that period. But
Sure.
at the same time, you know, when really that chapter was over for Paul and for the other guys, Paul really wanted to go back on the road, and that's, you know, that's why he started Wings. You
Hmm.
know, first thing he did was called up his buddy Denny, you know, whom
Yep.
he met in the '70s. I mean, they were buddies, and say, hey, you know, I'm starting this new band. You want to come and join the band? And he was available, wanted to do it. Great guy, you know.
Mm.
Um, so that is what this show really emphasizes on. You know, we're not just playing the music. We are giving the audience a true, pure, immersive experience into
Hmm.
McCartney's performances of the 1970s. Not just the music. You're there for the experience.
Sure.
Everything that happens on stage has meaning. You know, so that is the story.
Good.
How I arrived here today, here, or I should say March 29th, 2025, a
Yeah.
17-year trajectory to get to that point at 8 p.m., you know, at the Paramount, which we're
Cool.
looking very forward to bringing that show to the audiences of New York, man.
Exact. And I was just watching a little bit this morning when I woke up. I put on YouTube and I was watching the rock show video of the concert, Paul McCartney. So I guess if anyone is wondering what this show's going to be like, it's very easy to go out and to grab
Yeah,
watch the experience of
yeah,
the band in the '70s and and watching and like you know, it was such a great time. I'm 64, so I grew up in that time period.
When
I
I
grew
get
up.
older, losing my hair.
Yeah, and there's a song
Oh, you
about me that
still
the
get it
Beatles said.
all.
I know, yes. And the hair is getting a little thinner, but I still have some. But looking back at that time period, I mean, Wings were just so popular in the 70s. I mean, and you talk about,
Oh yeah,
I have a record store and we're based more on the hard rock on this channel, but Wings in that time period, I mean, they were right there
that was
with
a hard band,
Zeppelin.
man. Wings.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I've sort of, you know, I've sort of spoken to some of the people over the years,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that were on that tour, like roadies,
Mm.
and they were like, "Yeah, man, that tour was that was hard. There was a lot of partying going on,
Oh.
and you know, it was wild. You know,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, yeah, it's a great time, and
The album Venus and Mars is
mhm,
celebrating a 50th anniversary this year.
yeah,
And I simply love rock shows. Like, of course, I live in New York. I'm about an hour from New York City, so I've been to Madison Square Garden. And whenever I go into the garden and I sit there, I always get the song "Rock Show" in my head. I don't, whether it's I'm seeing Santana or Iron Maiden, and you're just sitting there, long hair at Madison Square, and it's such a great
Bonsiger and
song to me because
you
it
know,
just recreates that feeling of getting into the stadium and you always get that little adrenaline rush with whoever it is when they first come walking out on
yeah, you
stage
know
to
what's gonna
play.
happen when, yeah, when you
Yeah,
see the haze and the
yeah,
gear and the staging and the lights, you know it's
yeah,
about to go down, you know, and yeah,
yeah.
we kind of have that same thing going on,
Hmm.
albeit in a very smaller setting, because I mean, you know,
Oh
McCartney was
yeah,
playing
yeah.
for
But
30,
the
40,000
energy from
and
that song, I always thought, I
but
mean,
yeah,
that album
yeah.
to me, like I loved Letting Go. I think that's such a great song.
We did a version of that. I don't know if you've seen it. We did a version of that. You know, I'll send it to you after this interview if you
Okay,
wanted to put it in there. But we did a version of that last summer, and
okay.
my young son actually he took a camera and filmed the whole thing, so
Oh, that'd
everything's
be cool.
live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. So shaky camera footage, but that's what happens when you give it to a kid. But it's just nice because it's pure, you know. We're this that's us naked, you know,
I mean,
and
yeah.
without any bells and whistles. And I believe it was just a
Hmm.
rehearsal that we did or a sound check before a show. And yeah, I'll send it to you.
Uh, from that album, what are some of your favorite songs, if you have any, from Venus and Mars? Other, we talked about Rock Show, of course.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean the nice thing about rock show is that you know it's. Um, I mean, it comes in hot, which is nice, you
oh
know.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think generally, just in general of all the songs that we do, I mean, it's always tough to like pick a favorite song, you know, because it really depends on sort of the mood that I'm in.
Yeah, from the album.
But yeah,
Yeah.
one of the songs that I really enjoy doing is "Call Me Back Again," you know.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it really emphasizes on McCartney's abilities and range in that song. And he goes from singing, you know, very clear to very guttural. And I
Hmm.
just love those changes in there. And I love doing that too, you know, to go from the higher guttural sounds and the
Yeah.
lower and then the clean. You know, it's a great song. It's about a telephone call and a connection.
Hmm.
Mm. It's one of my favorite songs, I think. Yeah,
One of my
generally
favorite
in the
Wings
show.
songs that's on that album is like with Spirits of Ancient Egypt going into Medicine
Yes,
Jar. It's such a great,
yeah. Medicine
it'd be
Jar.
very hard to
Yeah,
listen to one of those songs without the other.
we do Medicine Jar. Spirits of Ancient Egypt. We've done,
Hmm.
um, and yeah,
Okay.
another one of my favorite is Magneto and Titanium Man.
Oh yeah, I've got that in my head all day today.
We 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 have it in our show. Like
Oh,
every
good.
show we have it in there. I think it's one of the most underrated
Mm,
songs, you know, like it should have been like a number one hit and it kind of
yeah.
got buried into the all the other greats that were on the album. This also one of my favorite songs. And obviously the Rhodes piano that, you know, he performed
Mm,
it on.
Yeah.
which we have as well, and Rhodes piano. It's just like you can't replicate that with whatever,
Mhm.
like it's just you just need those hammers onto those tines digging in and that farting sound of those lower end notes in that song that really come out that you also
Mhm.
hear in the album as well as the live version. Yeah, we've also mic'd up and wired much of like or pretty much all of our instruments much in the same way that they did at the time,
Very cool.
so that you really get the same sound. In fact, we even have like to our soundboard, it's an English brand, and Allen and Heath, that we work with.
Hmm.
So all those things, like I said, there's nothing really is a coincidence. We didn't choose the gear because we kind of figured that would work. We chose
Hmm.
it because we went really deep into figuring out what he toured with, how it was mic'd. Like we have, like if you go on stage
It's
and you
it's
see the
sound.
microphones,
Yeah.
same microphones, but also in the same position.
It
Some
sounds like
some
it's a
speakers.
concert experience, but also like a reenactment.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you want to put on a show that really, it gives a sort of a true performance. Again, it comes down to the purity and the authenticity of it, and
Hmm.
I don't want to skip anything. I want to
Sure.
know everything down the line, everything down the chain, like how it was done. And some speakers, in fact, are daisy chained, and some are not.
Wow.
Some guitars have preamps and some have not. Some
Hmm.
some some don't. And it's all about sound and color that came out
Yeah.
of that show that I want to reemphasize on during this show. So a lot of the choices people may not
Hmm.
know, some of the choices that we've made
Hmm.
on how things should sound like. But what I love doing is that, if you're sitting in the theater or you're performing in the theater, there's 1,500 people in the room,
Mm.
and there's one guy, only one, even only one that knows what's going on. That's great. And when you get a message or somebody approaching the stage after show going like, I know why you put that microphone there. I know,
Hmm.
I know. You high
Yeah, it's
five
cool.
and just, just that just that's heartwarming, because I mean, I'm a purist, I'm a fan,
Hmm.
and I just want to do it right. We're talking about one of the greatest songwriters and musicians of all time. You can't really take any half measures,
Yeah.
so even like I'm originally right-handed, I learned how to play left-handed. It's
Okay.
just all about sort of getting it right. And that includes everything from even the kind of bass strings that I have on my
Hmm.
bass, so. But it's still a work in progress. There's still things that
Sure.
I see go like, hey, we don't talk about that part, but
So it sounds like we're going to hear some of the deep tracks, but are we also be hearing some of the hits? I mean, are you like band on the run, stuff like that? Would that be in
yeah,
the
all the
set?
big hits and
Okay,
then some
good.
of the deeper cuts. Yeah, absolutely. So,
With the other one I'm
I
thinking in
want
my
to.
head is Uncle Albert.
Yeah, like it really depends on what show, because
Sure.
for us, we kind of like, flip songs around, and if you
Sure.
look at sort of the set list and song list that they did over, the course of like 75, 76, you see all
Hmm.
these little changes,
Yeah.
and obviously they're doing it for their own sanity. They don't want to put on
Hmm.
the same songs every night. I mean, the structure is the same, right? They
Yeah.
still open with rock show and,
Yeah.
but everything in between, you sort of like move around, and
Cool.
I mean, I have a list of songs that McCartney had, you know,
Hmm.
that um that displays all the songs that he was considering for that tour, and I see a lot of songs in there that didn't make it on the
Of
on the
course.
album or didn't make it on the
Yeah.
video, whatnot. But obviously, he wanted to have a wide variety of songs to choose from for whatever particular night that they're performing. And we kind
Hmm.
of do the same thing, we don't
Okay.
stick to the same set list every night. And there's different little nuances, and that's
Hmm.
for our own sanity, but also for the audience, that
Sure.
they sort of like see a slightly different show now as opposed
Hmm.
to like even last year, so it's evolves, it just
Yeah.
moves, it's fluid, again, sort of in the spirit of what they would would do, or they have done. It's not even hypothetical. So
And for those who aren't watching this right in the Middletown area, because we have viewers all over the place, you guys, I was looking at your website. You're on tour pretty much every weekend right now around the United States of America. Then I see
yeah,
a. Then I was looking at the dates, and all of a sudden it kind of stops in one place in Michigan. And I said,
yes,
well, it's like they're there for a couple of days. And I said, then I looked, oh no, they're cut there for a couple of weeks. So you guys
yeah, we
are
have,
on tour now, but you have like a
yeah.
residency you're doing somewheres over the summer months, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we're at the moment, arguably one of the busiest concept bands in the country. We're right now we have I believe 116 dates on the agenda, and our fall tour that we're working on right now, we're probably going to end up somewhere in the 140s, by the end
Nice.
of this year. So yeah, we're really busy. And yeah, we have a residency this summer on Mackinac Island. 1.2 million people visit Mackinac Island in northern Michigan
Okay.
over the course of 4 or 5 months in the summer. And yeah, we're there 5 days a week. And
Wow.
yeah, we did it last year, and even by the end of that residency, we were a well-oiled machine, which
I
is
bet.
so yeah, that's the other thing, like we're not just a couple of guys thrown together. We're a group, we're a band, we laugh,
Mhm.
we eat, we sleep, we cry together,
So talking
and
about the current band, what is the current lineup in the band? We'll introduce some of the other members before we wrap this up today.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll start with my wife, Jennifer, and she's also my onstage wife, Linda. And
Cool.
believe it or not, she shares the same birthday with Linda, which is
Wow.
September 24. So
That's something.
yeah, that is something. And in fact, our first child was born just hours apart from Paul and Linda's first child.
Wow.
Our first child was born August 27, and Paul and Linda's first child August 28, just a couple of
Jeez.
hours apart. So we didn't plan that, by the way, for all the listeners going there. Hey, were you guys doing math? No, it wasn't
Yeah.
exactly like that. So, but yeah, she's performing as Linda. She's actually a pretty talented keyboard player. And before we knew each other, she was actually a drummer, which is kind of cool. She had taken some drum lessons, and I remember, the very early days when we started dating, she had a drum kit, in the
Hmm.
room. So she's got rhythm, you know. Um, and then so as Jimmy McCulloch, I have a guy called Stephen Shin. He hails from Los Angeles, California.
Nice.
Um, Very, very talented guy. I met him at NAMM, and he's a virtuoso. There's videos of him at 11 years old shredding, and just a great guy, really good. Personifies Jimmy McCulloch, he's got the same style, the same look. He's slightly introvert off stage, and then on stage he's just like focused on his guitar, and it's just wonderful. Plays that 1970 Gibson SG like Jimmy McCulloch,
Nice.
through the 1961 Bandmaster. Wonderful, wonderful guitar player, great singer. Madison Jara, that's his song that he'll be doing
Cool.
on Saturday, March 29th.
Yep.
Um, yes. Then I have Hayden performing as Denny Lane. You'll see him holding the double neck guitar. He also hails
Nice.
from Los Angeles, California. I am going
Wow.
to tell you, when these guys are going to unionize, I'm in trouble. So um, we're calling them the Cali gang. So yeah, wonderful, wonderful, superior singer. He's very versatile, just like Denny Lane. He's my right-hand man in this band. Very animated, great guitar player, great bass player, fantastic piano player, and just a superb singer. Really personifies Denny Lane very well. And you might just see him do a Moody Blues song during the show, and you
Oh,
and I know
wow.
what that one is. So yeah, that's Hayden. Then on drums, we have Jesse Mark, also from Los Angeles,
Oh
California,
boy, you're in
everybody.
trouble there if they
I
hear
know we
this.
are in trouble. I'm a minority, that's for sure. But you know what? That's the thing. Being in Michigan here, I didn't want to just look in my backyard. I wanted to get the best guys.
Hmm.
Um, Nationwide, and these are just these are just the best guys.
Yep.
Jesse is a phenomenal drummer. He's actually taken lessons with Greg Bissonette, who's Ringo Starr's drummer,
Wow.
and they hang out together. So he's personifies Joe English magnificently. And you'll see him, and he might be sporting the same clothes as Joe English as well. So
Nice.
fantastically animated guy on
Hmm.
stage, but also off stage. We love him. He's just a joy
Hmm.
to be around with. And yeah, on keys. So sometimes, so obviously with the Wings of America, they had a horn section there, four-piece horn section.
Hmm.
We do tour with the horn section sometimes, but not always. It really
Yeah.
depends on the size of the venue and
Yeah.
and a bunch of other factors. So we have a full-time keyboard player, a keyboardist, or arranger, as I like to call him. He does really everything that the horn section does.
Okay.
And if you listen to Wings Over America, they did a lot of overdubs, right, for the album version. Because if you listen to what was played live and what ended up on the album,
Hmm.
they would have had too few hands. So there's actually quite a few overdubs that they did afterwards in the studio. So what Joe does, he obviously does everything that the horn section did live, but also with his other hand, all the overdubs that they did on Wings Over America.
Okay.
So what you're getting is a really good blend of the original concert and the original album performed live. Just because obviously, they with the overdubs, they wanted to strengthen some of the instruments and some of the sort of like effects that they had on the albums that were really important, that were not possible to do live simply because they didn't have enough hands.
Mm.
So that's what Joe does. Amazingly talented guy, really good singer. In fact, I mean, everybody in this band are strong singers. The harmonies are all done live, and we don't have any pre-recorded tracks or whatnot.
Wow.
Everything's done live and to the original, and that's the band, man. And then obviously I have a great crew.
Mm.
Um, my sound engineer, I've known him for now 11 years. He's been touring with
Mm.
us for 11 years. The sound that you're hearing, both on some of the videos that you see that we put out, but also the
Hmm.
live sound, that's him.
Cool.
Like he's studied the albums and the live versions extensively, and his job obviously is to make sure that all those instruments that are on stage, that they sound in the way that they ended up on the live versions of all the songs that we're doing. So he's an amazingly
Mm.
talented person. I would say sometimes it's the most difficult job because we have close to 60 channels of sound coming into that board,
Wow.
and all of them are EQ'd in again, no coincidences here. Every single channel is EQ'd in such a way that it resembles what the original sound was, and that's just an amazing job. For me, that's
Hmm.
something that I don't understand,
Mm.
but yeah, Kevin is amazing, and then I have my lighting engineer, Adam. So all the
Mm.
lighting that you see in the show, he's designed for us,
Wow.
and he does the lighting and the stage as well. The stage itself, that all the risers are lit. So if you look at Wings Over America rock show,
Mm-hmm.
and the footage, you see that they have a stage with all the little running lights and the
Mm-hmm.
color. So we have that too, and
Mm-hmm.
he controls all of that.
Nice.
And not only that, I'll tell you this. This kid is a young kid. He's just 17 years old,
Wow.
and he's going to be going on the road with us for the very first time. And he's going to be the luckiest 17-year-old in the
Mm.
country.
Cool.
I wish I was able to go out with a rock band and tour the country, being
Mm-hmm.
17 years old. But this guy, amazing. Like he's here at the local school, and the entire school, all the teachers and all the students really supported him. He generated a great interest in Paul McCartney's music when he heard about us,
Mm.
and then approached us. And I gave him a chance. I said, "Hey, like, yeah, you want to shadow what we're doing here?" And then he just took the bull by the horns.
Yep.
And he spent a couple of weeks studying the lighting. And he literally approached me one day. He said, I think I can do this. And I gave him a chance. It's like, just show us. And it was just amazing.
Cool.
17 years old, and he studied all the lighting that was done for Wings Over America from 75 to 76. A
Mm-hmm.
kid, just unbelievable. So he's designed all our lighting.
Mm.
And something that I can't even do, to be honest.
No.
I look at it and go like, okay, I don't know even where to start.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's kind of like my crew. And then I have a whole bunch of guys that
Mm-hmm.
have the big muscle, because I mean, me and my thin frame, I can't carry an amp even if I wanted to. So I get a whole bunch of really strong guys that are just great support for the
Nice.
band, that make sure that all our trucks are unloaded, and everything's set up even before we arrive as the
Nice.
band. I'm very thankful to my entire crew to make this happen. But yeah, it's a big organization, man. But we love it.
Well, I'd like to thank you for giving your time today to the Rock Fantasy YouTube channel. I'm right around the corner, like I said earlier. I have a record store, which is also a pinball arcade. We've got 63 pinball machines there. We've got black light
What's the
posters,
sound? What's the
concert
sound
teach.
that come out of them when every single one of them is played at the same time? It must be like a
Well,
game called
if everyone's played at the same time, it sounds like a classic video game or a pinball or classic
arcade. Yeah,
arcade. But if you have a few moments that day, please walk on over that afternoon. I'm open 12 to 7 and you can experience the sound yourself. But usually
I love it.
usually they're not all going at once, but we do have it's like a museum for pinball and been nice to work with the Paramount and help them out a little bit as they're right around the corner. We have a lot of great places to come if you're coming into town for the show. There's plenty of great places to come in a little early and grab a bite to eat. A lot of great restaurants and breweries in downtown Middletown to come
I'm sure
check
we'll
out.
utilize that. Yeah,
Oh yeah. So
we will
before you
utilize that.
go
We will
see
enjoy Middletown,
Sound,
New York.
what's that? Middletown, New
We
York,
will,
and
yeah, we will enjoy Middletown, New York as best as we can. So for
good. And
sure.
we
And
look.
if people wanted to get tickets, obviously they can go to the website of the Paramount Theater.
Mhm.
They can also go to the McCartneyyears.net.
Okay.
Find us on Facebook, the McCartney Years, and we have photos and videos online, and people can scroll through our concert agenda. And if there's
Nice.
any dates that are available, yes, we'd love to see more people come and see the show for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a great it's gonna be a great night in Middletown or wherever you get to go see the
Woohoo!
McCartney years with
Yeah.
all the love and all the thoughts and process that you're putting into this. And it's amazing that you're able to do something that you love, you know.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
always say like if
never
you
work
can
a day
do
in my
what you
life.
like when you're
Yeah.
going to work, and it just makes life so much better.
Yeah. 17 years of the McCartney years, and yeah, about 22 years, professionally, really,
Hmm.
music and was kind of crazy because so I mean I got a degree in business, and then my dad was very happy about that, you know,
Mhm.
and then he wasn't so happy about it when I said, well, you know what, I want to start a rock band, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but over the years, he sort of like changed, and you know, he was
Mhm.
showing his colleagues around the office, you know, the newspaper clippings and then the
Mhm.
videos eventually, you know. So he's come around and like he's like, okay, I think you're all right now. So
Your story sounds a little bit like I just watched the Becoming Led Zeppelin and some of the guys in the Zeppelin band having to tell, hey, where I'm leaving my job, or I'm leaving my job as a session guitarist. And they say, oh, you're crazy. And I don't know if you
well,
watched that movie.
Brian May is an astrophysicist, you know.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
one of those things. It's like you know, yeah, and I mean, I'm not as smart as Brian May by any stretch of the imagination, but you know,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, I mean, he obviously has a massive interest
Mhm.
in astrophysics,
Yeah.
and you know, I mean, my interests go beyond this band. You know, one of the
Mhm.
things that I love doing is, you know, when I'm off tour is not play or listen to music, you know, go outside, be in the garden, plant flowers and see them grow, play with my kids, you know,
Yeah.
travel even, you know, we travel a lot for the band. I
Mhm.
love, you know, going places far out.
Awesome.
So yeah, you know, it's just one of those things, just keeps life interesting.
So we hope to see everybody in the Middletown area.
Oh yes.
Come on out and see Yuri and the Mccartney Years at the Paramount Theater. And I think
8
we'll
p.m.
wrap
show.
the rock show.
Rock show, man.
There's
Yeah.
going to
Doors
be
open at
long
7
hair
p.m.
at
Yeah, long hair,
Paramount.
Madison Square, concert gebouw, I was saying
Yeah,
earlier. Sort of a nod to the Netherlands, which I kind of like, you know, seeing I
yeah.
was born and raised there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now my phone's ringing. Very unprofessional. All right, I'm hanging
Oh,
that up. Sorry about that. But anyhow, we're gonna wrap this up anyhow, I think, because we want to get this up and get this on the YouTube and share it over to the Paramount so we can get everybody aware of what's coming to Middletown, New York.
thank you so much for having me, Stephen. Really enjoyed our chat. And yeah, I gotta check out those pinball machines.
Oh
I know a
yeah.
couple of guys that would wanna go and
Oh
enjoy
yeah, come
that.
on
So
over and visit me in the afternoon, and I'll make sure I'm there that night. So that's a Saturday night, so it's a
yeah,
Saturday night in Middletown. So looking
yeah.
forward to that, and hey, and for any of the viewers that are watching, put down some of your favorite Paul McCartney and Wings songs in the comments, and we'll see you next time on the Rock Fantasy Files.